my superpower, quite honestly, is encouraging other people. Keep going. I want to see you get that. Like there's room for all of us to eat out here. It shouldn't matter, but just can I say it? And they're all Black, right? So I'm not an anomaly. We're out here, right? We're out here. It takes work, but we're out here and it's doable.
Jumping out those windows, saving the world.
Jumping out of planes, honey, not windows. She's jumping out of planes. She's an F-16 in my world. Come on through.
All right, welcome everyone. We are here on another great afternoon of Two L.I.T Chicks podcast. I'm so happy to be there and be here with all of you to talk about a phenomenal leader who you just won my heart so much. So welcome everyone. Fern, you go Fern here, and we have Alicia.
Yes, so I would like to welcome everyone to another episode of Two L.I.T Chicks. We are so excited today to bring our guest, Dr. Laura Jones, to our table today. Yeah. Dr. Laura Jones, do you want to please introduce yourself to our audience?
Okay, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. It is a pleasure to be on this podcast with you guys. Two L.I.T Chicks is lit for real. I've seen, of course, I have subscribed and seen some of your past episodes, and to just be a part of that now, and I'm in the books. So thank you so much for having me. Yep. So I'm Dr. Laura Jones, and I am a cybersecurity risk management executive. I go between all things risk management, whether it's enterprise risk, cyber risk, just risk in general. And so that's what I do on my day job. And then I also keep a foot in academia as well. So I'm an adjunct professor for 3 universities, working with students there. So that's a pleasure. Background is military, starting out after high school, 17 years old, went into the Army, stayed 21 years. Biggest highlights of really my military career is I served the first 7.5 years with the Special Forces. I was support. And then I went on over to the 101st Airborne Division. So I got to jump out of planes, slide out of helicopters. And something I'd never seen before that I'm really proud of with my military career is that I was given lifetime memberships to the 5th Special Forces and the 101st. And so It's always been, a treat for me because I had never seen it before. And then I haven't seen it since, but I'm sure there are other people that have earned that as well. So that's been exciting. 10 years of global management consulting in the DC area. So really supported a lot of the big departments, Treasury, IRS, Homeland Security, 3 tours at the Pentagon, just been around the DC area prior to and building out risk management programs. So that's kind of my forte. I have a very apostolic spirit. I like to build and move, and let someone else run it. But that's what I do with risk management programs, starting from scratch. Been into organizations where I showed up and all there was a sticky on a broken monitor that said broken. And so that's where I had to start from. But other than that, after consulting, went into corporate, been with some large organizations, continuing to build risk management programs, extending to governance and compliance. And that's what I'm doing here today, is talking about my love of risk management and so forth. So it's been fun.
You just dropped 50 years of experience and knowledge into your 20-year-old self, girl. So
yes, look amazing.
Thank you, Fern. You got it.
Hey, as you know, we age gracefully.
That's right.
Yes.
I call you a business risk savant, and all that you just went through and talked about from the different organizations and the government. And working with universities. I did my research, but it wasn't quite enough. I thought you were just with Carnegie Mellon, and then now as an adjunct, but you said 3 universities, so I'm missing something in my data.
Yeah, so after I got my first PhD with Capital Technology University, they invited me back to work with other doctoral students. So that was around 2021 when I first started working with students. So I do chair other doctoral students who are on the journey of getting a degree in cybersecurity or cyber psychology. It's typically something cyber-ish. And so I've been doing that since 2021. I typically have between 5 to 8 students a term, and helping them until they graduate, until they get theirs, they defend and they become Dr. So-and-so. And also I'm working with Wake Forest University, recently helped them write a risk program. It's more of a class within the enterprise risk management program, but it focuses on leadership and risk awareness. And so after writing that course, they asked me to teach it. And since it was a new course, I thought I better go ahead and be the first one teaching this, and to have that experience with that course that I helped write, but also just to work out, anything that I would need to if I ever want to just hand it off to another professor or adjunct professor. So those 3 universities.
So how do you find the time between your career, which is thriving, and now working with 3 universities, writing courses? How do you find the time to fit all this in and still look as beautiful and polished as you are?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that, for real. Well, it's the day job comes first, and that is the day job, and it typically happens during the day, but there's before work, there's after work, there's the weekends. And so that's the nice thing though about being an adjunct professor, is it's not a full-time job. And so you're able to go between, it's online, it's very much asynchronous. So I can just, log in when I need to, and then I don't, my sleep pattern's a little messed up, for real. But if I'm up at 4 or 5 in the morning, I can go over here, grade papers or what have you. So it works, and it works well for my lifestyle. And I'm going to say it again, and I'm just being real honest. I love talking about risk management. And so this actually gives me 3 different areas and ways to share what I've learned, what I know, and impart that in other people, and just kind of watch it propagate. And then it can live on. So that's like my contribution to my industry. So I just find the time.
Dr. Laura, so I want to rewind something that you just said, and you just breezed over it so easily. First of all, you're a veteran, so happy Veterans Day, because we just came out of it. So thank you so much for your service. But you said one of your PhDs, so you have a PhD in cyber leadership and a PhD in
Product management.
Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. But now both of them focus in different areas, but they both focus on risk. So with the product management PhD, I really wanted to, because I've heard a lot in my career where people say risks don't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense. I don't, why are we fighting a phantom? All of that. And it seems very ambiguous and like fighting a phantom. And so I said, you know what? There's an impact on the end game. It's reputation, it's money, it's all the things that an organization cares about and leaders care about. So I want to find a way to make this tangible. And so that's why I pursued the degree in product management, to give a spin to risk, if you will, and just research that area and try and make it more real. So that's the product management piece. And it's also about reputation. So it focused on reputation risk and potential profitability, because the two go hand in hand, reputation and profit. So that's how I wanted to make it tangible. And then the cyber leadership PhD is really more focused on different ways to think about risk. And I'm always writing and always thinking about risk. So it's really new terminology, it's new ways to think about risk. And so that's also where I spend a lot of my time.
So, Dr. Laura, you have a famous quote that you like to live by. And it's about calculating risk and, but never be afraid to blaze the trail. What made you come up with that mantra? What led you to that quote?
Well, thank you for that. It's amazing that you know that. So thank you. Know that about me. So thank you so much. So I've had a lot of firsts in my life, and I just say that that's something that God gave me. It's not something that I pursued. The first person retire from the military, my family. We've had others that served, of course. The first person who earned a degree, first person who earned, on up to a doctorate. just done a lot of things. First person who, went overseas in the family, just driving from state to state. It's not something we used to do back in the day when I was growing up, but being needed to do that, being a mother of a couple of kids and, driving home to visit my mom and family, and my nieces and nephews and my daughters seeing that, it to me, it kind of took the fear, if you will, out of wanting to do certain things and having an example. Because for me, it was, after I did it, it was, if mom did it or if auntie did it, I can do it. And I want them to know that it's possible. You can do it, whatever. Beat me. I'm fine with it. Do better than me. And so just a lot of firsts. And it is unnerving, but just don't be afraid to blaze a trail. Sometimes it's out of necessity. Sometimes it's calculated. But that's where that came from.
I absolutely love that. And Alicia, I'll turn it over to you in a second. I talk a lot about taking risks, and that we as women, especially women of color, don't always want to take risks in our career and the work that we do. We really want everything to be checked off before we put our name in the hat for it. But you've embraced this early on in your career, and then now you are an expert in the space of risk and risk management. So what made you take the risks? Did your parents instill something in you that said, the world is your oyster and go forth and really take this risk? Is there someone who motivated you into being, a woman who understands what risk taking is all about, but then led you to actually really honing your career in that space?
Yeah. So my mother and my father, my stepdad, whom I grew up with, they were very encouraging of me. And that's when I think back about my childhood, I think about, my mom being in her white nursing uniform and ready to go to work, but she has me at the dentist office. She has me doing different things, and she's there for me. I was a cheerleader. I was in ROTC. The games that she could come to, she did. If it was morning, she would make it before she had to go to work. So just being there, looking out in the crowd and seeing her, seeing my family was just so encouraging to me. And it made me want to keep going. And my mother would just tell me, things like, you can do it, keep going, just something. And I even say that to my doctoral students. I'll sometimes end with keep going, because it's so encouraging in those two words. And so in terms of so that's where it started. But I will say that I also credit being in the 5th Special Forces with a lot of my risk taking, because being a woman in a unit that's male dominated, of course, that is also white dominated, of course. And so this was in, the 80s, the early mid 80s. And I just naturally stood out. We all did. Women did. Wasn't just Laura, but women did. And then as a Black woman, you're just really in that little minute circle. And so you had to rise, you had to shine, you didn't do just a regular physical fitness test that the Army gave. You did that. You maxed it. You did the absolute max. And then you also did the PT test, physical training test that the Special Forces guys did. That means after you've done your push-ups, your sit-ups, and your run, all right, let's throw your battle dress uniforms. We know the camouflage uniforms, called them BDUs back then. But you put your BDUs on, including your combat boots, and then you jump in the water and you swim long ways twice with your boots, with those clothes on, and you do it in a certain amount of time. Now, once you do that, and you're going to do it, lady, right? Because you don't want to be, you don't want to be that person. You just don't. And so, yeah, you talk about pressure, but in a good way. And then while you're dripping wet, you take your rucksack, which was already preloaded with at least 35 pounds of gear in it, your military, but personal gear. And you ruck out, you march out for 6 miles out and then 6 miles back. So it's a 12-mile march. You do that all back to back to back to back in a day. And once you do that, you've passed what they call the stress test. So we had a different standard in Special Forces. We did things differently. And I started in the proverbial mailroom. That was my first job when I got there. And then I worked my way up as an administrator to be in the group commanders executive admin. And so got to see a lot of stuff come across the desk, got to do, a lot of different things. But that's kind of where that comes from in terms of the risk taking. Some of it was peer pressure, I'm not going to lie, but it's just that you did not want to be the person that someone else had to carry your weight, or
So,
you were unfit as a team member.
okay, so when did you pass out? Because girl, I was done after put the 35 pounds on. I'm like, what the heck? And then run 6 miles and then run back. I was like, well, when was the pass out and resuscitate phase?
Well, I might have got passed by, but I didn't pass out. That's for sure. It's that peer pressure in that organization. The model for them was the quiet professionals. So you do what you do and you do it quietly. That's like even today, I have a lot of people, you're not posting on LinkedIn enough. You do a lot of stuff, but you're just not telling everybody. I consider myself, I do some of that, but I consider myself still a quiet professional. So I do what I do. I go on to the next thing. And so it's not really for everyone to have to know, but if other people can benefit from it in some way as I'm doing it or in the aftermath, beautiful. I love it. But yeah, so that's how the risk taking really started, jumping out of planes, sliding out of helicopters, doing those sorts of things that I don't want to say average soldier in a negative sense, but in terms of the standard that they didn't have to do. That was just our standard and how we did things. And you could choose to do it or not do it. But of course, I chose to do it. So.
It's Dr. Laura. So I was in the Air Force. So I want to make sure that our audience is very well aware. You were in the Special Forces.
Yeah.
So in the Air Force at 6 miles, that was like 1 mile for us. It was not a 6 mile run.
Yeah. So you were passing out at 6 miles?
Well, listen, I saw grown men passing out at 2 miles.
Right.
And so what Dr. Laura is talking about is special for that means she was trained to go on the front line. Yep.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. First of all, thank you for your service, Dr. Alicia. Definitely appreciate you. So let me clarify though. Back then, different than today, women couldn't actually go to the qualification course. We could only support. Right. So things have changed, which is beautiful. And women actually gone through and gotten qualified. Now we wore the green beret. We did all the stuff, but we didn't deploy with them. We didn't actually go through the qualification course. So I don't want to make it seem like I actually was a special forces soldier. I was a support soldier in special forces.
Thank you for clarifying. Because, I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I said, I think I was on vacation in the Air Force because we didn't have it like this.
Listen, my husband was in the Air Force for 10 years. And so, when we started talking about our careers, I was like, babe, did you see any action when you were, in the Air Force? He's like, heck yeah, we go in the day room and the remote was missing. I'm like, okay, all right, a little different.
Yes, the Air Force frequently always gets teased to say we're kind of the bougie branch.
Right.
Bougie branch. Well, the Army is definitely the hardworking branch.
Yeah, but we couldn't do it without the Air Force, though. We need all the services to come together to
Yes.
make this country what it is and protect it and so forth. So I do thank you for your service, but we have to kid y'all because y'all had a good life now.
Yes, we did. We get teased about that all the time.
We were out in the woods in pup tents. Y'all were in the hotel looking out the window like, why are they doing that?
Yes.
What is the point?
Absolutely. And I have a question for you, because your career path, first of all, is just robust, amazing. Hats off to you, because I'm serious. I know what it takes, even as being an African-American woman in IT, all the different hats that you have to wear, as well as you mentioned, you were a mother as well. Mm-hmm. So the question I have for you is your career shows a pattern of invention and reinvention and elevation. Yeah. What leadership beliefs have you had to unlearn to reach your next level? Or was your career just really naturally, organically where it just took on a life of itself and you didn't have to, go searching and seeking?
Yeah, that's a really great question, about my career, is because it happened organically. So I was a person who learned early on to volunteer. A lot of people say I learned early on not to volunteer, but I was the opposite, because I feel like no experience is wasted. I don't care if it's just a quick rub, an encounter, interaction, or just all out going to some training or whatever it is. No interaction is wasted. So for me, I volunteered a lot and I was able to do a lot of things. One thing led to the next thing. Again, being in the mailroom, just not being organic. When I meet people, I'm not the person like, hey, Fern, hey, Dr. Alicia, let's just meet up every 2 weeks because I need FaceTime with you. No, if we have a reason and we want to, we will. So I kind of lived my life like that even earlier on in my career. And so I think people saw where, it was organic. And I'll say that volunteering and go from one thing to the next, it was like a building block. And so when I volunteered for airborne school, they sent me to special forces. When I was in special forces, everybody was going to aerosol school. We're looking at the 101st sliding through the air out of helicopters. So it's like, okay, let's go do that. That's fun. So it's like all these different opportunities, so much so. And you mentioned being a leader in IT, Dr. Alicia, that when I finally, as a consultant, started tracking myself into technology because I saw the future, and then tracking myself over into cybersecurity because I saw that future. I just really wanted to embrace being in IT and knowing that I would be one of the few, the minorities, et cetera. But just being a leader in that space, it's something that I had to actually be intentional about, to track myself into that area, and just make sure that I always had my finger on the pulse of what was next and where I should go. So it wasn't really about, having to really build. I almost say that it was a gift from God when GRC came along, because I was really feeling like, as a leader in IT, that I was literally saying to myself things like, gosh, you didn't have that strong technical background. You didn't grow up as a network engineer. Now you're with all these people and you don't really know architecture like that. And you don't really know. I don't need to know. As a leader, it's like the military. You need to have the best people. You do need to know something. You need to know some things. You need to know your role. But I just need to know where to find the teams or have the teams to do what I need done. And so when GRC-ish came along, it was like, I had this broad background. I was like, you know what? You're perfect for this role. It's business requirements. Everything you've done, you understand business. You sit in the middle. You know how to translate the technical speak and send that forward to more senior leaders, the senior most leadership, and just work in that vein. So that's how that evolved for me. So I stopped thinking, and that was literally probably only about maybe 8 to 10 years ago, where I felt like this is my space. Like, this is where I belong. And this is where all of that has brought me to, versus, and nothing wrong with people who came up either way or however they came up. That was just my path, and it was so organic. And I'm glad that I found my home within that.
So Dr. Laura, when you talked about that, what was interesting is your self-awareness journey started fairly young. And, a lot of us don't really become aware of who we are, who we want to be, until much later in life. So I just want to say hats off to having the foresight of leaning into a space that you knew would really resonate with you, and maturing into that was, I think, very interesting that you got there a lot earlier. And I feel that probably aided in your career and how you were able to move into so many different spaces. So talk to me a little bit about your own self-awareness, how you've centered with who you are, who you're not, how you've leaned into that so that you could be effective in the work that you do today.
I pray a lot, Fern. I pray a lot, and I lean on my faith, and I ask God to guide me in everything that I do, and He has. And so that's brought me to this moment. And I also keep my finger on the pulse of emerging technologies. This is my space. I, will read about the future of risk. And then I start thinking about how do I interpret the future of risk? Because you can tell me a lot. I can hear it and I want to hear it, the research, all of that. But, once upon a time in my life, I wanted to have a business called the Idea Factory, right? Because I just have all these ideas all the time and I put that to the side. But it's like even with risk management, cyber tech, it's like I have ideas, things I want to talk about, things I want to do. So in terms of self-awareness, it is really discovering what you like and really what you're good at too. The two don't always go hand in hand. If we have to work, we may as well try and pick something that we like. And if we can't, and this is just what we're doing, make the most and the best of it. So if this is your space, own it. Go write, go speak, go do whatever your temperament or personality will allow. And that's one way that whatever it is you're looking for, you can get that through making decisions about how you want to move in your space. So for me, that self-awareness did come early. It was imparted in me when I was young. It was a lot of church, I'm gonna be honest. It was every Sunday. And then by the time I went to Korea in the Army, I was still probably about 26, 27. It was church 5-6 days a week, right? And so just being centered in my faith, looking at different technologies. I always have 3 or 4 tabs open on my computer of training. Right now it's blockchain. It's also data risk management, data center risk management. Why as an executive? Because there's a lot of data centers being built, and just want to kind of get my finger on that. There you go. Yes, we get it.
Dr. Laura, what's one of the biggest misconceptions that you think people have about women leadership, and especially women leadership in IT?
Yeah, I think that the biggest misconception goes back to just how people have traditionally thought about women in a leadership role, no matter what the domain, is that perhaps we're too emotional. Right. And again, a misnomer that has no credence to it whatsoever, because I've seen men melt down. Right. I've seen peers melt down. I've seen peers schedule time with me every Friday because they need to melt down before they step away and go home for the weekend. So, and it's cool, right? Because you want to kind of be a listening ear and so forth. But I think that's a big misconception. And honestly, if that were true, it's actually going to play to our favor if it were true. Because even the way of AI is not just about the technicality and the technical components. Where people should be focusing their time right now is vibe coding. That's training AI, writing, not necessarily the code, but thinking about how we can impart empathy and human emotion into AI. I know that's scary because, we don't want them to be like humans, but that empathy, that compassion, all the things they say that are kind of wrong with women in leadership, if they are still saying that, that's now going to come full circle, at least a 180. First, and then hit the AI domain, and who's better suited for that? So maybe we should be driving that.
Because right now, what I see that's going on is, AI is about to level the playing field. Mm-hmm. Access to information is going to level the playing field. Anybody can pretty much be a genius at anything. That's so right. What are some of the biggest opportunities for women that you see coming through the pipeline in regards to women and leadership?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest opportunities, if they're in a workspace, is to take on some of those leadership roles around AI and the use of AI, the implementation of AI. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. So think about with their specific functional area that they're leading or department or what have you, as the organization continues to adopt the use of AI, how will AI empower and inform that particular organization and department? Because once that user adoption happens through the organization, they're going to be looking around to see how it's going to be used. So you can actually get a jump on it in that sense. So I think that that's one of the biggest things women in leadership can do in terms of AI. Those that are entrepreneurs can think about unless you're doing something very, very specific, that can also be AI enabled. Don't need to step away. But if you're just thinking about some level of consultancy or some sort of business, being an AI consultant would be a good way to go. And it's about knowing your craft, though. You got to learn these applications and such, but it's basic advisement and consulting. A lot of organizations want to know, what type of apps should we be using based on our industry? What things should we be thinking about? Now we're talking cybersecurity from a cyber perspective. We don't want all of our data, if we implement some platform, all of our data as employees are entering it, it's going right out the door into some big old data lake where somebody else can absorb all that information. But think about, learn enough and learn a lot about AI, whatever specific field, and go for it. You can start up an AI consultancy. Now is the time. It's just like when the internet came along. Now they're saying AI is going to create millionaires and billionaires. So,
absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
So hats off to that comment. You know why? And I think, I'm going to give her a shout out, is Alicia Little and AI Innovation.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
the work that they're
She's
doing,
everywhere.
that we are learning AI at scale. Yes. And then being consultants to give that back and get people embraced with AI. And you said a couple of things, Laura, that really resonated with me. One, it's I think you called it vibe coding. And I took a note on that.
Yeah.
And the empathy and the sympathy that has to go into how we build AI. Actually, I think that's a part of leadership that we need to show and be aware of how important it is to be empathetic and to have that. And now that we're working with technology that's moving 10 times faster than it was just not even 10 years ago, 1 year ago, we bring that into this pathway of AI. So I want to ask a question marrying together AI and GRC and empathy and sympathy. How is AI transforming GRC, governance, risk, and compliance portion of cybersecurity? And do you see it as, I can't wait, or do you have a concern?
I will have concerns about AI. I think I will always have concerns, but I've embraced AI. How it's transforming the GRC space right now, it's, I would say, less empathetic and having that human tone to it. But the future, the very near future, will be to have an automated evidence collection. So that's important. So let me just say it this way. Is, how when the auditor comes, they want to see that you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. They're looking at the policies. The policies are, organization, tell us what you do. Mm-hmm. And then they're checking for, let us see if you did what you said you're going to do. And then it showed me the evidence, whether you did an access review of somebody having access to an app, show me that it was done. And then a lot of times you have these resources, it gets resource intensive. They scramble to pull together all of this data. Now, where do you want it? Drop it on a SharePoint drive, drop it on a Google Drive, is all this stuff. Well, the future is automated data collection. And so it's almost, if you think about blockchain and how information sits on the block and it becomes immutable in that it's not really changeable. And if something is changed, it shows up later to say, hey, there's a change back there. So everything will be right there, real time, as it's happening, and it'll be logged. It'll be logged. And so that will save companies time. They'll be able to reallocate their resources, et cetera. And so that they will have what they need at a moment's notice. So that's really how AI is enabling GRC right now. And then we could break that down to say, what about governance? What about risk? What about compliance for the GRC Connect? But that's what it is overall.
So no, I just was saying we could keep going on and on with this conversation. But one of the reasons why I was really keen to ask you to join the conversation that Alicia and I have been having with Two L.I.T Chicks podcast is where we have a heart for service and we have a heart for giving back. And we want to make sure that this next generation who are coming into the tech space, which has really expanded over the past 5 years, they're ready. They understand what leadership excellence is about. They understand how they need to keep 3 tabs open at all time, right? So they're learning blockchain and data center risk management and vibe coding. What does giving back and paying it forward mean to you, Dr. Laura? And how do you serve that in your community?
Yeah, so if I think about the broader community, not necessarily right here where I live, but one of the things I started doing back in 2019 was writing children's books. I had a couple of characters, little Black characters, because I believe representation matters. And so it's books that all kids can use, but I wanted these two little characters to be Black. The girl happens to have locks. Her name is Cyber Kai, and the little boy is
Oh,
the little boy is Techie Guy. And so they talk about online safety, online security. And a lot of it is really talking about the things we would tell our children, grandchildren, niece, nephew, the photos, the information, sharing too much, talking to strangers. But it's a little more than that. I offer a little more than that. And it's also a way, it's not really, these are not books that kids are just going to pick up and say, oh, I just love reading about passwords and passcodes. But it is a way for a caring adult, whoever that is, teacher, grandma, whoever it is, to have a conversation with children and have a guide. And I've had parents and older people tell me that as they were sharing this and reading through it with their child, grandchild, that they actually learned a lot. And those were the moments that honestly touched me, because I'm like, oh my God, okay, this is awesome. And so that's how I give back, is to also connect with children. I've spoken at the Boys and Girls Club. I've spoken for Jack and Jill, but just talking to children and making sure they understand. And one of the things I hear it more and more now on the internet, but one of the things I started saying back in 2019 was, we, with our children, we'll take them to dance, we'll take them equestrian lessons, sports, whatever it is, music lessons, and we'll drive a country mile to do it if they have talent. All right. And they're promising, but we don't really give that same credence to technology and cybersecurity. Here you go. Here's an iPad, put that on YouTube and watch this. Or here's your iPhone. And we don't really spend a lot of time there as much as we commit to other areas. And these children, absolutely, if they have the capacity to learn all these other things, they have the capacity to learn more about cybersecurity. So that's why I also put in my books, I'll always have at least 1 to 3 careers. If I'm talking about data privacy, I'm going to talk about a data privacy officer in the way they understand it, who manages risk, the chief risk officer. So I'm talking like that, and they're way too young to be thinking about a career, but why not plant the seed? We plant seeds and everything else. Why not?
Dr. Laura, what's the name of your book and where can we get it?
Oh, I have just one on Amazon, but it's called Cyber Kai and Techie Guy Manages the Risk of Being Online. It's on Amazon.
Cyber Kai and Guy. Ooh,
yeah, exactly. Her name's Kyra, but I just shortened it to Cyber Kai so it can rhyme. Cyber Kai and Techie Guy.
So I'm going to have to get some pointers from you. I wrote a children's book about a month ago.
Nice.
And it literally poured out of me.
Yeah.
Unexpected. So I'm going to have to get some tips from you on how to bring it all the way to publishing. So that would be really cool.
Okay.
Definitely help amplify those sales on Cyber Kai and Techie Guy for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to close this out. We do a lightning rod round at the end. It's a fun way for us to get to know you a little bit differently. And although you have an absolutely phenomenal career, like I said, I'm calling you the business risk savant and cybersecurity management expert. But you're also a mother, we've learned, an author, one who likes to fly out of planes, and all the things. So,
all the things.
So this is the fun part. Okay, so this is how it goes. It's just 2 questions, and you pick it. Like if I said red or green, what color kind of?
Okay.
All right, so this is our lightning round. Let's start it off. Lightning. Okay, reggae or jazz?
Jazz.
Sunday home cooked meal or dinner out?
Sunday home cooked meal.
Oh, okay, so then I'm going to add on to that. Greens or macaroni and cheese? Ooh.
It depends on how to cook. Okay, mac and cheese. Mac and cheese. Okay. Mac and cheese.
Comfort food, right? That comfort food hits you right. So, right in the tummy. Plants or flowers?
Plants.
Okay. And how do you woosah? Is it yoga or Pilates or walking?
I'm going to be honest with you, and don't judge me. but it's actually sitting in front of my computer, just me and just mental mind mapping and writing and, just releasing thoughts that I'm having about risk and AI in the future. And I'm serious about that. Before COVID, I was trying to go around the world on every continent and speak about risk. I made it to Dubai, I made it to Germany, and then COVID happened. So I have to get back to that. But that's how I will say it's quiet time. And I think that happened when I started getting these PhDs and I was spending so much time alone that I kind of got used to it in terms of just sitting and expressing myself through writing. Now I go out and hang out with my family. We travel, we do stuff all the time, but that's my moment and how I will say.
Is that your superpower, Dr. Laura? Writing?
I think my superpower, quite honestly, is encouraging other people to achieve their goals, to really keep going.
Uplifting others. I love it.
Yeah, if you don't keep going, you won't get there. But if you keep going, you can get there. Like, I want to see you, if it's a positive goal, who am I to judge? But some things we know are right and wrong. But, if it's a positive goal, I want to see you get that. Like, there's room for all of us to eat out here. Every day.
Here's how I view you, and this is why I just have so much love for you. I think you're a G3 force. You've got grit, you've got gratitude, but you have so much grace.
Thank you.
That's why I just said you have to come and join us. So thank you for being a part of this great conversation. I think we could go on for another half an hour or so. Our audience keeps listening because we want to bring great people.
It is good.
Double doctors to the table. More double doctors to the table. I got doctors I got doctors to my right.
No, Dr. Laura, you got 2 PhDs. So do we need to call you Dr. Laura? Like Doctor?
No, that's fine. Because here's the thing. You know how they say you kind of become like the 5 people you hang around the most? And so my academic-ish circle, my friend, she has 2 PhDs. She's had those. I don't know if she's going to get another one. Our mentor friend has 3. He's working on his 4th. And then we have a friend who has 5 doctorates.
What?
These are, and I'm going to say it, and I know it shouldn't matter, but just can I say it? And they're all Black, right? So I'm not an anomaly. We're out here. Right? We're out here. It takes work, but we're out here and it's doable. And so that's also a message. We don't, do we need to tell the kids to go get 3 to 5 PhDs or doctors? Maybe not, but you see that it's possible. So
that
you
it's
can get at least that one. It's possible. It is possible.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your journey. Your passion and quest for learning never stops, never ends. Having that G3 force, jumping out those windows, saving the world.
Jumping out of planes, honey, not windows. She jumping out of planes.
I said, there's a window jumping out of planes.
What? She's an F-16 in my world. Come on through, Air Force. F-16.
Y'all are phenomenal, beautiful, successful women, very much so in your own right. So I appreciate everything you're pouring into me, but it's a mirror. I see you like that and more, absolutely, and more. Because when Fern asked me to join, I was like, "You want me to join your podcast?" Okay, Fern. I was genuinely excited. So this means a lot to me. So thank you.
Thank you.
As well. Well, to our audience, that wraps up another episode of 2 Lit Chicks. No, honey, this is 3 Lit Chicks today on 2 Lit Chicks podcast. We appreciate you joining us. Please like, follow, and share. And until next time.
Thank you for joining us today. Listen, like, subscribe at 2 Lit Chicks podcast.
Remember, stay curious, stay bold, and always stay lit.
Woo-hoo.